friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 25 of my 2021 holiday card series. Today I'm going to be making a card using Hello Bluebird's Frosty Friends and Snow Play. So I've stamped my images out with Lawn Fawn jet black ink on some Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White cardstock. I'm also going to be using some pattern paper from the Simple Stories Make It Merry 6x8 pad. So I'm going to flip through and find the sheet that I want to use as my inspiration for my color palette and tuck that under my cardstock panel. I'm going to be coloring with my Copic markers, and my first combo is going to be BG10 and BG11, which I'm going to use for the snowman. I want to give him a little bit of a frosty glow, so I'm going to take that BG11 and add a little shadow on the left side of his body, also underneath that scarf, and then I'm going to blend that out with the BG10 and let that fade into the white cardstock. And I will grab my colorless blender to go over the edge of the BG10 to just help that soften into the white. And then for the nose, I'm going to use YR04 and YR07, and I'll also do the little beaks of the cardinals with those shades as well. Then I wanted to give him some rosy cheeks, so I went with RV10 and RV11 because they're a little bit cool toned, so I thought that would suit our snowy scene. And then I'm moving on to his top hat, and for that I'm using T3, T5, and T7. So I'm going to use that T7 on the left-hand side because that's the side that I am shading with my shadows. And I'm going to lay in some darkness with that, and then I'll bring in the T5 and start to blend that toward the right hand side. I'm going to leave quite a bit of that area though for the lightest shade, that T3. So I'm going to blend that out even further, just making sure to work over the edge of the T5 so I get a nice smooth blend. And then I'm going to fill in the brim, but I did decide on the top part that I wanted an even brighter highlight, so I filled in with the T1 for that part. And then I did do the little coal buttons on his belly with those shades, and I'm also going to do the area around the cardinal's eyes. I started with the T5 for that, and then I'm blending out with the T3, and then I'll fill in with the T1. I wanted to keep those light enough that you could see their eyes. And then I'm moving on to some greens. I chose YG11, YG13, and YG17 to do the snowman's hat band. I feel like these greens are a pretty good match for the green that's in that pattern paper. That's what I'm trying to match. I did do a second layer though, just to make sure that everything was nice and bright. And then I'm going to do one of the trees with this combo, but I'm going to darken it a bit by adding in YG67. I'm going to put that at the very top of the tree, and then also at the top of each section where the previous one would be casting it in a bit of shadow. And just doing like little small lines carefully around the little scalloped edges. And then I'm going to blend that out with the YG17. And I'm making sure to really go over the edge of that YG67 and pull that darker color into this mid-tone so that everything is nice and smooth. And then I'll take that YG13 and fill in completely. So I didn't end up using the YG11 on this particular tree, but I'm just going to continue going down until that is all filled in and just working over the edge of the previous shade, like I said, to make sure that everything is smooth. Then I decided to take away that darkest shade and go back to the same exact combo that I used on the hat band, and I'm going to do the tree on the far right. It's the same tree as I did on the left. I just stamped it down twice, but I wanted it to look a little bit different. So I'm doing it in a softer color palette. and one that matches that pattern paper a little bit more. I don't mind having that darker green as well, just to really make things look a little bit more interesting and not have the trees all looking exactly the same. But I still wanted to make sure that everything matches and looks nice. So it's a nice way to stay within that color palette, but just make it a little bit lighter or darker as you choose. And then for the final tree, I still wanted to go with warm greens. So I chose YG21, YG23, and YG25. This one I'm shading a little bit more on the right hand side, and then at the bottom of each of these sections I just basically picked the shading based on how the tree was shaped. It really isn't too complicated there. And then I will use this combo for the little holly leaves. For his broom, I'm going to use YR20, YR21, and YR23 for the bristles. So I started with the YR23 and also shaded that with a little bit more shadow on the right hand side, highlight on the left, and I did go over that with 2 coats to make it nice and bright. Next I'm pulling in some browns, and I chose E25 and E27 as all the areas that I'm using the brown on are super skinny. So I did the little branch arms of the snowman, and I'm going to do the broom handle and also the tree trunks. So I just laid in the E27 first for a little bit of darkness, and then I'm blending that out with the E25. I also did the band at the across the bristles of the brooms with the E25. And then for my reds, I went with R24, R29, and R39. And I'm going to start with my shadows on the scarf, and I laid those in with the R39, mainly on the left-hand side, but a tiny bit on the right, just because I figured that broom would be getting in the way of the light hitting that side a little bit. So it would be a little bit darker there. And then I blended that out with the R29, and I'm filling in with the R24. And I am also going to color in the little holly berries with that R24, just dabbing that in. And then of course the cardinals need to be red, so I'm going back to my R39 for them and laying in some shadow on their tails and the bottom of their wings, and then the little peak at the top of their heads. And then I'll blend that out with the R29. I'm going to leave the belly and the front of the face for the highlight, so that will be filled in with the R24. And then once I'm done with those guys, which I just love them so much, I think they're so sweet, then I'm going to take my black Sakura Jelly Roll pen and just go over the eyes of my snowman and the cardinals, especially on them because they have the black face. This is going to make their eye look nice and bright again. And then I'll trim these images out with their matching dies. Then I wanted to create a frame using that pattern paper and the Hello Bluebird Gallery Frame 2. So I ran that through my die cutting machine, and then I'm taking apart the little pieces, removing the ones I don't want. Normally I would swap out either the inner or the outer portion with another pattern paper to make it look a little bit more contrasty and just really make it pop. But on this one, because it had those large poinsettias, I didn't want to lose the look of those. So I'm going to leave the frame completely intact as it is. And I'm going to tape that together with a little bit of Scotch tape. I'm just tearing the pieces in half so that I can put those on the back to hold the two pieces of that die together. And then that way I can use it all as one frame. So that's another way if you want to just add some pops of color on your card, but the print that you want to use you know, is too large to just be used in a very small frame, you can always double it up like this kind of frame, and that way you can see more of that design. So I'm going to move on to the background now, and I'm going to be using some Salvage Patina Distress Oxide Ink to paint on a sky. So I'm just going to be dabbing that onto a piece of Bristol smooth surface cardstock, and I'm really just dabbing it here and there. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I just want areas that are lighter and darker, so we get a mix of the real pale shades and a little bit of the more concentrated color. I'm also going to do some splatter detail in the background, so I get little specks just to create more interest. And then I'm going to let this dry off to the side once I'm happy with it. Just added a few more dabs of that darker color. And then I'm going to move on to my sentiment while this is drying. So I'm going to pop a piece of Lawn Fawn black licorice cardstock in my Misty, and then I'm going to coat that with some EK Success embossing powder so that I can stamp with Versamark ink, which is just a clear sticky ink that works great for embossing because it grabs a hold of those powders. So I'm stamping out the one that says Merry and Bright. This is from the Snow Play stamp set, but I'm selectively stamping just the Merry and I just used a little piece of Post-it tape to cover up the word bright. It did lift up a little bit of that powder there, but the embossing powder isn't really going to stick to it very much. It did stick to the B, so I just used a paintbrush to remove that. And then I'm going to grab my heat tool and heat set that until it is white and shiny. And then I'm going to trim that down. In the meantime, I'm going to stamp on the inside of my card base, which is a piece of MFT's Snow Cone cardstock scored and folded to a standard A2 size card. So it's 4 1/4 wide by 5 1/2 tall. And I'm stamping out some images in Lawn Fawn Merman ink. And then I'm going to set that aside. And I have also created some snowdrifts using the Hello Bluebird Slimline Hill and Dale dies. You could use the regular Hill and Dale dies. I just don't have them, so I use the Slimline version. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the bottom of one of those and layer them together. And then using that frame, I'm going to add those to the card. I'm just holding them in place so that I can make sure that they're going to go where I want them to go, because I want them to be flat on the card, and then I want the frame to be popped up. So I've added some foam tape to the back of that. I just cut down the little strips until they were skinny enough to fit behind those little sections. And then I'm adding a few extra little pieces to the corners to make sure that those are really well supported. And then I'm going to pop this down in place right over top, lining up that middle line with the bottom of the snowdrifts. Then I can adhere this to my card base, so I'm going to add a little bit more of that liquid glue to the back. And that snow cone cardstock is almost a perfect match for the blue in that pattern paper. So then I can bring in my images so I can stage my little scene. And I'm going to start by adding in the trees because I want to tuck the bottom of the trunks underneath the snowdrifts, and so I gotta work quickly before that glue is too dry to be able to do that. So I added the two that look the same on either side, and then I'm going to add the one that is a little bit different over on the right hand side to balance out the snowman who's going to go more toward the left. So I'm going to glue him down as well, just making sure I have everything coated nicely so everything will be stuck down well. And then I'm going to add my two little cardinals. So one is going to go to his left, and then the other one will go over on the right in that empty space there to just help fill that in. And then I also have his little sentiment that says fa la la, and I'm going to put that right above him at the top part of the card. And then for the bottom part, I have die cut the Jane Small Alpha dies from Hello Bluebird out of 3 different shades of cardstock. I use Lawn Fawn Chili Pepper, Cilantro, and Noble Fir. And there are 6 letters in the word bright, so I did 2 of each, and 2 of each shade. And then I'm going to just lay those out how I want them and kind of figure out the spacing. And you could definitely be a bit more precise with this if you wanted to. You could use a ruler and, you know, do little pencil marks and all that, but that's just a little bit too much work for me on day 25 of the holiday card series. So I just kind of eyeballed it, and then I'm using my reverse tweezers to kind of help me put those down into place because they are a little bit fiddly. So I just had to figure out how I needed to hold those tweezers so that it would be easiest to put them down. So I ended up doing it with my right hand at the top right side of the letters, and that worked out well. That way I could control the glue with my dominant hand, my left hand. So I'm just working my way backwards from the T to the B and adding all of those letters. And I probably should have put the I just slightly closer to the G, but I think it's fine. It's not that big of a difference. There's a little bit extra space between that letter and the G, but it's fine. This glue dries really fast, so you only have a very few seconds to be able to work with it. Right here is where I realized that I should have shifted things just a little bit more toward the right. So I did try to do that with the R, but the I was already glued down. So it's fine. It's fine. So I'm going to take the little Mary and part, and I'm going to add some liquid glue to the back of that as well, and adhere that right above the BRI in bright. And then I wanted to add some tiny iridescent stars. So I'm going to put those in my Twiddler's Nook embellishment tray. And then I will use my Studio Katia embellishment wand to pick those up and set them down into the glue. And I really like that I can get those tiny little dots of glue with this Barely Art Precision Craft glue because it has that super fine nozzle. So I can do a few dots and then set the stars down and then do a few more dots and kind of just assess the situation and see where else I might like to add them. So I did another one under that fa la la. And not only is this embellishment tray super adorable, but it's also really functional with that little notch on the end. It makes it really easy to dump your little details back into the bag. And then I wanted to add some Stardust stickles, of course, so I put that on the snowman scarf and also on the holly berries. And then I wanted to add some to the tops of all the trees as well and just help them look a little bit more frosty, like maybe some ice has crystallized on there. So I'm going to do that. And I'll even do it on the third tree, even though quite a bit of it is covered up. So just did it on the parts that I could see. And then I wanted to add some snow, so I'm going to use my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. I just shook that up really well, and then I'm taking the ink that is in the cap and adding that with a little dotting tool. And just putting it here and there wherever I think it should go, avoiding the stickles because I don't want to add it in there. I think it would probably just disperse a little bit maybe because the stickles is still wet. So just kind of filling in here and there and making the scene look nice and snowy. I wanted this to look like a true white Christmas. And then I'm going to close that up and lift that up to the camera so you can see all of the detail and all of the sparkle and shine. And I'll give you another peek at the inside. So this is my final Christmas card for this year, but I will be back on Friday with another holiday card video. That one will be a New Year's card. So if you enjoyed this one, please make sure that you've hit that like button and leave me a comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. All of that interaction means so much and it really, really helps. If you're interested in any of these products, you'll find them listed and linked in the description bar below. And if you'd like to keep watching, here are 2 extra videos I thought you would also enjoy. So thank you again so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye-bye.